Good morning, everybody, and welcome to today's Illinois Self-Advocacy Alliance webinar, all on Centers for Independent Living. My name is Jin Pak. I am a project specialist with the Alliance, and I am very excited to have to be the moderator and facilitator of today's discussion. As some of you may know, we have a wonderful resource in Illinois for as known as the Centers for Independent Living. And I thought we wanted to take this time to really highlight what they do and how they can be a resource for folks in the intellectual and developmental disability community, as well as get a good introduction as to what SILs are. So before we jump into the content, just a bit of housekeeping. We do have real-time captioning available. If you want to turn that on, if you look at the bottom of your Zoom screen, you can see a little box with 2cc. You can click on that to turn it on. We also have ASL interpreters who are on the screen, and you should be able to, if you want to make them easier to find, they are spotlighted, but if you want to pin them on your screen, you can do that as well. And again, so it's great to have everybody on board. And as I said, we are the Illinois Self-Advocacy Alliance is proud to host this webinar. We are also a proud initiative of the Illinois Council on Developmental Disabilities. And if you have questions or comments, please feel free to use the chat. And our fabulous Alliance leader, Christine, who's going to be helping to monitor the chat, and then we'll take time throughout our conversation to hear from you and answer any questions that you may have. So in terms of our agenda today, after we do our welcome and housekeeping introductions, we'll spend our first few minutes learning about what are Centers for Independent Living. And we'll hear from two wonderful folks, Shelley Richardson, who's the Executive Director of the Statewide Independent Living Council, or SILC, and John Herring, who is the Executive Director of the Illinois Network of Centers for Independent Living. Again, give an overview of what SILs are. And then we will dive into the meat of our session today, where we really want to highlight and spotlight SILs throughout our state. Our state is big and it has a lot of different communities, and depending on where you are, and the Alliance has connections and groups and connections all over the state. And we wanted to make sure that we can highlight as many SILs in the different regions, whether it's north, central, southern, urban, rural, suburban. So we couldn't get to every community, but we do have a wonderful representation of SILs who covered various parts of the state, so that they can be a resource to you and help find SILs that are closer to you as you need. And then we'll have time for questions from you all, and then we'll finish up with a leadership opportunity for those are Alliance members and parts of they're connected with our Alliance who are interested in doing some leadership on a statewide level. We'll have some information around that. So without further ado, I want to introduce our wonderful Centers for Independent Living representatives. We have representatives from Access Living, Amber Smock, who coordinates and leads the advocacy program at Access Living. We have Eric Brown and Carolyn Morris from RAMP in Rockford. Horacio Esparza, who is the Executive Director of Progress Center up in the northern suburbs. We have Wendy Settles from Impact, and Mel, is it Leong or Long from PACE in Urbana-Champaign. And I'm going to, as we move into this section, First of all, I'm going to turn it over to Shelley and John, who will give an overview of Centers for Independent Living, and then we'll move into the SEAL Spotlight. So John and Shelley, please introduce us to what SILs are.
Shelley, you want to go first, and I'll finish up. You're on mute, Shelley.
Oh, and Shelley, before you jump on, just as a note, I'm going to stop sharing the slide screen so we can see each other and see all the speakers' faces. Take it away.
Okay, now let me enlarge my screen here. All right. I'm going to leave the bulk of what centers are to John. I just want to give a brief overview of SILC, but we will be talking more about SILC later on. But the Statewide Independent Living Council works hand in hand really with the 22 centers for independent living across the state, other councils that deal with people with disabilities, and many other agencies that serve them. And we work to support the Centers for Independent Living by writing a state plan that helps make things better for everyone in the areas of transportation, employment, and housing. And that's all I'm going to say about that right now, but I want John to fill you in on what a Center for Independent Living is.
Okay, thanks, Shelley and JJ, and thank you for giving me this opportunity to present at this forum. NCIL, which is the Illinois Network of Centers for Independent Living, is the coalition or network of Illinois Centers for Independent Living. There's more than 400 SEALs that operate nationwide at the only cross-disability, non-residential, not-for-profit organization that's governed and staffed primarily by persons with disabilities. As Shelley just mentioned, there are 22 SEALs throughout the state of Illinois that make up this network, and we exist to help people with disabilities achieve maximum independence in work, school, housing, transportation, and healthcare. These centers are driven by the philosophy that people with disabilities have the right to make choices, to control the direction of their lives, and participate fully and equally in their communities. SEALs are rooted in the disability rights movement, which grew out of the American struggle for civil rights. The first SEAL opened in Berkeley, California in 1972, and then the first SEAL in Illinois was Access Living, a metropolitan Chicago, and it opened in 1980. All SEALs provide the following core services, in addition to community-focused offering based on local needs, which each of the different SEALs represented today will go into more detail on that. The 5 core services are peer support and mentoring, information and referral, individual and systems advocacy, independent living skills training, and transition support. And that transition support involves 2 areas. One is the transitioning of those that age out of school, transitioning them into the community as far as employment or what their desires are to do after they graduate from school. And the other part is transitioning individuals out of skilled nursing homes into the community of their choice. And then finally, NCIL advocates for independence, inclusion, and integration for all people. We also serve as an authoritative source, a bridge builder, and convener on critical issues facing the disability communities. And again, as the executive director of the network throughout the state, I am happy to say it's our vision and mission to make Illinois one of the best areas that work with people with disability that the nation can look up to. So I'm going to end my presentation there, and like as it's been mentioned, we're going to get some more detailed information from the different CEOs represented on the call today.
And if I could just jump in for a moment, what I find absolutely fascinating is even though the 22 SILs all have the basic core services, each SIL kind of has its own personality depending on the community that they serve. So they bring some unique programs for their local consumers. And you're going to see that as different SILs talk about their programs.
Exactly. Thank you, Shelley. Thank you, John. And yeah, it's and I couldn't agree more with the fact that yes, our 22 SILs in Illinois do amazing work, but as Shelley just said, they are all unique and they have their own personality, their own culture. And I would encourage and invite all of, if you're not connected with your local SIL, to reach out and learn about what they do and how they can be a resource to you and to the disability community at large. Yes.
I did want to add one important fact that I forgot to say is that as of February of this year, we are covering all 102 counties throughout the state of Illinois, covering with funding from DHS. Those counties, 9 of the 102 counties were being served, but they were being served without additional funds. But as of February, every county in Illinois has a funding source by itself.
Oh, that's wonderful news. That's very that's very good to know. So just to be clear, as of February of, was it this year, there is funding through DHS so that every county in our state of Illinois has funding to provide independent living services through a SIL versus, so, oh, that's great. Again, that's going to be really helpful for our existing SILs to build up their services for those communities, as well as moving forward, if there's a need to start up new SILs in those counties as possibilities. But whatever whatever that may look like in the future, the good news is that every county now has funding.
And JGN, with that funding, the two SILs, or the two Centers for Independent Living that was adjacent to those 9 counties in Southern Illinois, one was adjacent to 6 of those counties, and the other was adjacent to 3 of those counties. They have created satellite offices in those counties to make sure that those services are more local.
Oh, great. So yeah, and again, just to be clear, even before this new funding came about, the SILs that are those underserved counties, were the SILs that were connected to them did their best so that they were still able to get services to whatever possibility they could. So this just really helps sustain those services and improve them moving forward. So thank you. That's great. That's great news.
Okay.
One last question I wanted to just ask, and you touched upon this, John, but I wanted to come back to it and really highlight this point. One of the unique characteristics of SILs is staffing. Can you talk a little bit more about what percentage of staff have to be include people with disabilities for a SIL to be considered a SIL?
I believe the percentage is for the board. It's at least 51% of each Senate board had to be a person with disability. I don't think there's a percentage on the staffing, but the majority of our centers have a majority of staff that are people with disabilities.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. And I think that's important to note, is that the Centers for Independent Living, by design and just being very proactive, the staff who work at Centers for Independent Living, many of them, if not the majority of them, are members of our disabled community.
Yes.
So they have an understanding of our disability culture and our needs and our issues. And I think that's really important, because it helps for those of us, and I'll speak for myself, having been living with seizures and as well as low vision. When I first connected with Access Living and heard that Access Living staff, the majority of staff, are members of the disability community, it felt really a strong resonance and a connection that, oh, the folks I'm going to be talking with that lead this organization understand disability, and they understand the disability perspective. And I think that's important to highlight as well. So
it was confirmed in the chat that the staff also had to be 51%.
Yeah, and that's really important. Again, the majority of the staff of SILS have to be identify as being part of the disability community. So Centers for Independent Living, our disability, majority of them are staffed by people with disabilities and led by people with disabilities. And it's, again, something I think that's important to highlight. So moving on. So again, thanks, John and Shelley, for that introduction. And I really want to now turn it over to our SILs and let them really, for lack of a better term, really spotlight themselves and really brag about the wonderful services that they do in the different communities. So to start with, I'm going to ask Amber from Access to start and just give an overview and talk about Access. So Amber.
Okay, hello everyone. This is Amber Smock, and I am the Director of Advocacy for Access Living. I've worked at Access Living since 2005, so it's been a long time working at this particular Center for Independent Living. Just to let you know, my personal disability is that I am deaf, and so even though I talk, I am relying on the interpreter and the caption for communication access. So that is my disability. I would also like to let people know that when I first started working at Access Living, for the first 5 years, I was the youth leadership coordinator. And what that really means is I was working with young people with disabilities who were, in need of transition supports, but I was helping them understand how to be advocates for change in our community in Chicago. And so we were doing a lot of community organizing. And, the main bulk of that group was people who are self-advocates. So, like the original project that I had to work on, I had to recruit young people with intellectual and developmental disabilities and teach them how to be empowered, how to have everybody work together as a team and work on projects together that would help make things better for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. So I just want you to know that the self-advocacy community is very important to me. And in addition, in my personal life, one of my partner's daughter is a person with Down syndrome, and she is an awesome advocate. I love it. And so anyways, so both personally and professionally, folks with intellectual and developmental disabilities are very important to me. In 2010, I became the Director of Advocacy, which is a job that I have now. And I'll come back to that in a little bit. Let me tell you a little bit more about Access Living. So Access Living is in Chicago. We serve people who live in the city of Chicago. And that's a lot of people, because there's a lot of people in Chicago, of course. But Access Living is the oldest center for independent living in Illinois and also the largest. But we currently have 69 staff, I think, at our office. Of course, because of the pandemic, we've been working remotely, but for the services that people need to get in the community, we have been going out into the community to people's homes. So we have been doing that. So the pandemic has been hard. And anyway, so Access Living was started in 1980, and we offer a pretty wide range of services. And you should know that people with intellectual developmental disabilities do generally have the opportunity to participate in just about all of those services, I think, except for some, there's some restrictions on certain kinds of contracts or whatever, but in general, folks with IDD are welcome to participate in what we do. And so let me tell you a little bit about that. One thing that we do is we do independent living direct services. And what that means is two things. One is half the team is dedicated to getting people out of nursing homes. You know, so if you're a person with an intellectual developmental disability and you're living in a nursing home, I don't mean a group home, I don't mean ICFDD or SODC, specifically nursing homes. If you were somebody that said you wanted to get out and live in your own place, we would work with you on that. So that you have to have a particular qualification for it. But we also have a team in our independent living services department that works with young people in high school who have disabilities. And for the most part, these are young people with intellectual developmental disabilities, because we work with the Chicago Public Schools to serve some specific schools that have, you know, lots of students with disabilities, or they're all students with disabilities. So maybe you've heard of Southside Occupational Academy, or Northside College Prep, or let's see, Vaughn Occupational. Okay, so all of those schools are schools that we work with to help students with disabilities learn about the disability community and start talking about what they want to do after high school. So we work with them on that, and it's a pretty great program. And I feel very proud of it, because that's part of what I did before, you know, so, you know, just kind of growing that program is really great. Okay, then we have the part of independent living where we help people be more independent. So we offer some workshops and support groups. For example, a support group for just anybody with a disability that wants to come together and talk with other folks with disabilities about disability problems, right? So they have that. We also have a program that goes to people's homes, and, you know, a lot of folks, they don't know how to be real independent at home. So maybe they need to learn how to, like, how can I use my kitchen better? How can I sign up for transportation services? You know, things like that. So we go to people's home to do that. We have classes like financial literacy, and what that means is, you know, a lot of people have trouble managing money, or maybe math's not their big thing, you know, or maybe people don't really know how bank accounts work, or how credit works. How do you work with the credit history? Why is that important? So we have a class that meets and talks about, you know, how to know all those things so your finances are better. Because that's a really big problem for a lot of folks. They can't get ahead of having bad credit. Maybe somebody had a credit card and they used it and then they never paid the bills, and then you have a problem. Okay. And so we do have financial literacy in that way. And then, you know, we do other things like, you know, assistive technology. If somebody needs like a talking device, or if they need things around the house to help them do things, you know, we work on that sort of stuff. So those are some of what we do for independent living service. We also are unique because one other kind of program that we have is a legal program. And so we have what we call our civil rights team. And there's 3 lawyers on there, and they have a couple of specialties. One is, let's say you're a person with a disability looking for housing, and you want to rent an apartment or buy a house, but you're having trouble doing it because the people owning the unit or the house are discriminating against you because you have a disability. Then if you're trying to do that kind of situation, you call us. It doesn't matter where you live in the state, call us and tell us, like, what's the discrimination that you're experiencing, what's going on, you know, and we'll see about helping you out. And the other thing that is big for our legal work is we have an attorney who specializes in ADA issues affecting places of public business. So let's say you wanted to go to the gym, Or let's say you wanted to go grocery shopping, or you want to buy some clothes, or you went out to dinner. And when you did that, you had trouble because the place was not accessible or the staff treated you different because you had a disability, then that would be a reason why you would call Access Living and talk to that lawyer. And the third big area that we do is the department that I run, is the advocacy department. And the advocacy department has 4 community organizers and 4 policy advocates. So we have a lot of people in that department. But again, the stuff that we do, like all of the work that we do, it does involve self-advocates to a certain extent. So we have 4 big groups that work on community change. One is called DRAC. That stands for Disability Rights Action Coalition for Housing. And it's a housing organizing group. They're awesome, you all. They're so great. And they do include people with IDD and what they do is advocate for affordable, accessible, integrated housing. And also, you know, for things like access to homeless shelters and things like that. So they do a lot of that. And then we have a group called, we call it Tough Ass, okay? But the acronym is TFAS, but we call it Tough Ass. And it stands for the Task Force for Attendance Services. And they focus on healthcare and home services, and they fight for that. And again, there are folks with IDD in that group. And then we have a group called Cambiando Vidas, that's Spanish for changing lives. And Cambiando Vidas is, you know, just about everybody speaks Spanish or speaks Spanish and English. A lot of folks are immigrants, so they do a lot of advocacy for immigrants with disabilities. And I know Jay Jen is very familiar with that group. Again, that group also has people with intellectual developmental disabilities. And then the last group that we have is called AYLP, Advance Your Leadership Power. And that is our racial justice organizing group. Again, lots of people with IDD. And they have been fighting to make sure that folks with disabilities do not have to come into contact with police when having a crisis or a meltdown or whatever, and you know how things can get kind of weird with the cops and stuff. Anyway, so they've been fighting to make sure that when you call 911, you'll get help that is not police, but actual like help for de-escalating your crisis and things like that. So basically that's based in Chicago, but you know, we do get people who are interested from across the state and all those programs. We also advocate on transportation. So I know a lot of people care about transportation. We advocate on the police and the jail system around Chicago. So we deal with that. We advocate on healthcare and home community-based services. And oh my gosh, we have so many things. But we do a lot of things. But we do help the statewide network of independent living centers with advocacy and other topics. So we do work quite a bit with some of the groups that are also on this call. But I just want to say that I also have been a trainer at this thing called Partners in Policymaking, right? And it's teaching people how to people with IDD and parents of kids with IDD, how to be better advocates. And so my part of the training has been teaching people how to do community organizing, stand up for yourself, work together as a group, and fight for change. So that's also a part of what I do as well. I'm going to stop there, but I just want to say I really appreciate being allowed to share this information today. So thank you, JJ.
Wow, thank you, Amber. I live in Chicago, so I've had a chance to get to know Access and some of their services and folks over the years, and it's great to hear, just learn new things about it as well, and how Access works to meet the needs of the Chicago, our Chicago community, and just how vast and large it is and complex it is, and again, just the intent and the motivation of everyone there. And similarly, as we move on to our next SIL, again, I think I just wanted to also mention this by no means is a comparison. And I don't want anyone to feel like this is a comparison, because every community and every SIL is different. And I believe, and I know that every SIL, all 22 SILs, do their best and are committed to serve the communities that they're located in. And all of those community needs are different. And I'm just very grateful to all the ways, the creative ideas and innovative ideas that each SIL does with the way that you all meet the challenge. So with that said, again, thank you, Amber, for introducing us to Access and the Chicago community. And I want to turn it over to Progress Center and Eric Brown and Carolyn to talk us a little bit about Progress Center and the needs of the suburban communities.
So
Please.
JJ, I'm at Ramp. Is Horacio
Oh,
on?
Ramp.
He's the Progress Center one. Do you want?
Oh,
is
I'm sorry.
Horacio on?
I'm sorry. Yes, Horatio. I'm sorry, Eric. My bad. I'm getting people confused. So I'm going to turn over to Horatio from Progress Center, and before we move on to Eric and Ramp. So again, my bad. So Horatio, please.
All the audio.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Jay, and thank you, everybody, for giving me the opportunity to speak today. I just turned my video on. It doesn't make any difference for me, but anyway, I think for all of those who can see, it makes a difference. So anyway, my name is Horacio Esparza. I'm the Executive Director at Progress Center for Independent Living. And actually, I will complete 22 years working at Progress Center this coming November. So I have been with the organization for, over 2 decades. And the organization, Progress Center, was started or opened its doors in 1988, actually 8 years later, after Access Living. And Access Living is our sister center for independent living. They serve all the metropolitan area in the Cook County. And Progress Center, we serve all the suburbs in the Cook County. That means over 133 suburbs that we serve. According to the census, there are about 500,000 of people with disabilities just in those 33 municipalities. As John Herring said, we provide, Centers for Independent Living, we provide 4 services. But each Center for Independent Living serves based on the needs of each community. Progress Center, we have 2 offices. Our main office is in Forest Park in the suburbs, in the northwest suburbs. And then we have another satellite, we have a satellite office in the south side, almost in the border with Indiana. Actually, we are located in Blue Island. We have over 20 employees. The south office, even though we are short of staff and most of them are part-timers, there are four employees. Actually, I work 1 day in the south office or 2 days in the south office and 3 days at the main office. But still, we have been able to keep our doors open full time, 9 a.m. to 5:30, Monday through Friday. So Progress Center, we have our advocacy team, we have our deaf services department, we have our home services department. Under the home services, we have the personal assistant program. We have our community reintegration program, assisting people to move out of nursing homes. As Amber said, it has been a challenge due to the pandemic to get into the nursing homes. Under the umbrella of Progress Center, we also have a weekly radio show in Spanish with Univision. The purpose of that radio show is to spread the word about the services that we provide, but not only about our services, but about any other activities or events coming going on in the community. And we go further. We not only talk about Illinois, but we talk about worldwide movements around people with disabilities. We have a fast track program. The fast track program is for young people
Lost hope.
between 14 and almost 22. And under that program at the main office, we have a group of students with cognitive or mental disabilities. And I want to say that for us, it has been a challenge working with people with mental disabilities. It is kind of difficult, but we have been doing our best to include each disability in our group, in our center, to provide the services they need. Or I want to say that when people come to our office or they call asking for services, most of the time they ask, what kind of services does Progress Center provide? And I said, well, Progress Center is not like the services that we provide, that we provide. Basically, tell me what kind of needs you have, because we don't, each individual is different, and the needs of each person with disabilities is different. So we cannot have a specific services for everybody. So the mission of Centers for Independent Living is to provide the tools people with disabilities need to become independent and to function in the community. So it's not like like any traditional social service agency, that they are very specific on the services they have. Centers for Independent Living, we work based on the need of the person. Often I receive phone calls from consumers asking, can you tell me how you can help me? I said, well, first tell me what do you need and see how we can help you. So I remember when I first came to Progress Center in 1999, most of the services were for people with physical disabilities or wheelchair users or walkers or people with physical movement. And for me being blind, it was not easy because the resources were not, they said at Progress Center, they didn't have the technology, assistive technology, the materials in Braille. But when I got in and I started working on Progress Center, we started including all those kind of resources that blind people needed. And then we started working with people with mental disabilities and deaf. We already had the services for deaf people. But I think in the last 2 decades, not only people with physical disabilities are included in, are not receiving services for people with disabilities. But I think now more and more diversified the services for everybody. And it is not easy, as I said, because we work based on the need of each person. So basically, that's what Centers for Independent Living do, providing the tools, making sure that when a consumer calls us, have the resources they need to become independent. Employment is one of the biggest challenges we face. As you know, over 75 or 80% of people with disabilities that can work or are in the age of being able to work don't have a job, and it is a challenge. Housing is one of the challenges we face. Many of the phone calls we receive is about housing, and our advocacy team works very hard trying to advocate for the, with the government to implement more how accessible, affordable housing and integrated housing for people with disabilities. So it is not, very easy to provide the services when people call asking what services do we provide. So I think when we contact Center for Independent Living is to let the staff at Centers for Independent Living what we need, what are the services or the resources or what we want, what our goals are. And Centers for Independent Living will open a case to create goals and objectives so that you can get what you need to be successful and be fully integrated in the community. That's the mission of Centers for Independent Living. I don't know if there are any questions about that,
focus.
Jay or anyone, but basically that's what we do. And as I said, Access Living, they serve all the metropolitan area, and we serve all the suburbs in the Cook County area. But being members of the Illinois Network of Centers for Independent Living, that helps a lot because sometimes if it is a consumer that lives in a different county or area, we collaborate to work together to serve any consumer that is moving out of the area and going to another area. That's when the way we collaborate with other Centers for Independent Living. But being members of the Illinois Network of Centers for Independent Living, it is a big benefit because we can be in communication and helping each other to better serve our community. Centers for Independent Living is a good option. And I want to say myself, as seeing myself as a consumer, I learned about Centers for Independent Living when I was on my 40s. If I would have learned about Centers for Independent Living when I was after I finished my high school, I think my life would have been totally different. I started working very late in my life until I learned and I found Centers for Independent Living. So if you know someone with a disability or a parent with a child with disabilities, make sure they contact a Center for Independent Living. A Center for Independent Living will make a big difference in a person with disabilities. And that's that's my testimony how a Center for Independent Living changed my life. So thank you, Jay.
Thank you, Horatio. And thank you again for introducing us to Progress Center. Apologize for my little blunder earlier. But yeah, as you can see, there are, as the centers provide the 5 core services, some of the needs are similar in terms of housing and advocacy. And it was good to hear a little bit of how Progress Center evolved and has served the community over the years. So thank you, Horatio. Now I'm going to turn it over to Eric and to hear about RAMP from Rockford.
Okay, thanks, JJ. This is Eric. I'm the Education and Advocacy Coordinator at RAMP. For access purposes, I'll give a quick image description. I'm a white male with dark hair and a beard, sitting in a cubicle. Behind me is the rest of our office. I'm wearing a blue shirt. And then just for inclusion purposes, pronouns are he and him. So just want to talk a little bit about RAMP. So we serve Winnebago, Boone, and DeKalb and Stevenson County. we found it really important very early on to make sure we had offices in those counties. So we actually have an office in Stevens County and Winnebago County and DeKalb County. We don't have one in Boone County because Winnebago is so close to Boone County that we can serve both. Much like everyone has said, we cover the 5 core services. We really focus on what our consumers need in these counties, and covering the 4 counties that we do, we recognize that our consumers need different things in every county that we serve, and we're very much consumer driven in that way. That as the advocacy coordinator, I have an idea of what the barriers are in our community. Obviously, as a person with a disability myself, I'm aware of those barriers, but I always want to engage with the different communities that we serve to say, what are the barriers facing your community, or what are the things that make it difficult for you to move around, and is it independent living skills, is it employment, what are the things that you need assistance with? So we really take a look at, when we write our strategic plan every year, when we really look at like what we're going to focus on, we involve those that we serve, and we make sure that their voices are heard in what we're working on. We make sure that if we're doing presentations to the community and the community reaches out and says, we want to learn more about the IDDD community. Okay, great. Let's find some consumers that we serve that represent that community, and let's go do the presentation together so that we as advocates can talk about what RAMP provides, and then let the self-advocates do the work on what they may need as community members. Some of the unique programming that we do, so we do employment services. We help people get jobs in the community, whether that's wanting to work your way off of Social Security completely and all benefits completely. We can help with that. We can also help people to find a job and get employment that wouldn't impact their benefits, but would still give them something to do every day and the ability to kind of learn some skills. One of the really cool programs that we have in response to our community, one of the things that we've heard is that people that are in that transition age, really kind of, there aren't a lot of supports once you get to that transition age of transitioning from like youth to adult. And having those supports is really important. So we actually have 3 project search sites in our area that we started with the intent of getting youth from 18 to 21 who are about to transition out of school and putting them in internships in the community. So they're spending their entire school year in an internship with us, learning independent living skills training, learning employment skills, really preparing themselves for what that adult life will look like. And most of that is made up of people from the IDDD community who need those extra supports. So we're really working on, these students are coming in and in the beginning not really knowing what they want to do, and then by the time they leave, most of them are ready for employment, and most of the people that have transitioned from that program are getting jobs as soon as their internships are done. So I think that's a unique program that we do. Peer support is really important to us. As was mentioned earlier, 51% of our staff are people with disabilities. So it's important to me as the advocacy coordinator, it's important to us as the organization that the people we serve are really the ones kind of guiding where we go. We've seen a lot of that during COVID, where information has to be communicated in a way that is accessible to everyone. So we very early started working with all of our local legislators, our local media, to say, you guys are going to talk about how COVID affects the community. Make sure you're doing it with plain language and captions and image descriptions, and making sure that those accessibility needs for people are met so that people know what's happening in their community. And yes, always they can reach out to us and ask questions and we can clarify things, but it's always better if that information is accessible from the beginning. So it's really, focusing on what can we do to best serve our community? What can we do to meet the needs? I think one of the other things that I do a lot of is going out and talking to the community about how to not only be like disability aware, so that basic disability awareness, but how to be inclusive, how to make sure that the services and supports you're providing are actually inclusive beyond knowing the right words to say to talk about a community. So I think a lot of it for us is driven by what the consumers want us to do, what the issues are that they're bringing to us. And it's unique in the way that, as the advocacy coordinator, if someone comes to me and says, I'm an individual with a disability and I'm struggling with this, or I need to learn this skill, or I need to know who to contact. Let's go figure it out. Let's work together to eliminate that barrier. And I think, as the Illinois network of centers for independent living, that's the nice thing about having all of us, right? Is there's 22 centers across the state. There are different issues going on in Chicago that maybe aren't happening in Rockford and vice versa, but we can work together to eliminate those barriers for all. And ways that people can get involved, I would say for any of the centers, reach out, follow our social media, call us, have a conversation, tell us what the issues are that are going on, and come to events, come talk to us, learn who we are, let us learn who you are. And just know that the services are there for you. Know that all of our services are available to any person with a disability of any age. As Amber mentioned, there are some that, there are qualifications for them, but for the most part, our services are available to any person with any disability of any age. And I would just encourage that, as you're sitting through this today, if you're hearing something that piques your interest, reach out to your local center. And, if I'm saying that we at RAMP have something that your local center doesn't, tell them, hey, I found that interesting. And then we can have a conversation about services that, we might do that they aren't doing, and how to share that information. And, if Access is doing something that one of us isn't doing, that's great. We can share information and start doing those same things. So really the power is in your hands as our advocates, as the people that we serve, to guide us to what's most important to you. So I'll stop there and leave it for any questions.
Thank you, Eric. And yeah, thank you for introducing us to RAMP. And I didn't realize that RAMP, I forgot that that RAMP covered so many, several counties as well. So that's really good and a good refresher for me to know just the reach that you all have. And yeah, just again, like everyone has been saying, the reminder and the reinforcement that centers are all about working with from the perspective of the individual, what their needs are, what their wants are, what's best services for them. So, we've covered so far a lot of the northern and northwest regions, but one of the things that I'm grateful for Shelley and John and my colleagues and self-advocate leaders is the important reminder that our state is big, and in central and southern Illinois, those communities are just as important, and they're unique and their needs are different, and to learn about those communities as well. So with that, I want to move on to learning about Impact and the wonderful work that Impact does from Wendy, please.
Hi, thanks, JJ. My name is Wendy Settles. I work for Impact Center for Independent Living. It's kind of hard to say how long I've been there because I've been there in many different capacities for a very long time. I started out as a consumer, I was a consumer in youth services, but I really started out as a consumer at about 14. And then I was a member of the board, and I've held various positions with Impact. Currently, I focus mostly on housing, transportation, and then I help our executive director with ADA compliance reviews and things like that. Alongside my main job duties, I am also the advisor to a self-advocacy group called The Network. and the network's been around for a while as well. They were a people first group way back when that was a thing. And they are amazing self-advocates. And I'm very proud to say that I am their advisor. They actually, before I was their advisor, when my predecessor, Mitzi Kickline, was their advisor, they actually got an award, the Barb Pritzker Advocacy Award, for the work they do in the community. They're great self-advocates. And so because of that, they are great advocates for the community. So I definitely wanted to spotlight them. As far as our center, we serve a 6-county service area. Our home office is in Madison County. It's in Alton, Illinois, but we also serve Macoupin, Greene, Calhoun, Bond, and Jersey counties. And then we have satellite offices that kind of move around in our rural counties. We are lucky to have some other community agencies like libraries and stuff that give us space to do that. So unfortunately, we don't actually have physical satellite offices, but we're able to reach out to our rural counties in that way. Besides our core services, we also have in our deaf services program, we have a deaf blind program, and then we've had our older blind program since the very beginning, but we just recently started reaching out more to younger people with visual disabilities. So that's pretty recent. And I would say our main issue that we deal with in our community are housing issues. And I mean, that's a problem throughout the state, obviously, affordable, accessible housing. But I think that is the issue that I get most of my calls for. So we are active in our continuum of care. I sit on the executive committee for our continuum of care, which is a Madison County Partnership to End Homelessness. And we also sit on various ADA committees for various municipalities like the city of Alton. And I'm trying to think of more to spotlight. Really, I can't say enough about the advocacy group that I am advisor for. They are great self-advocates, and they were advocates when during the closure of doing advocacy for the closure of Murray and other institutions. They've also done quite a few different AGE complaints for accessibility in our communities, and not just in our main community and our main county, but in our 6-county service area as well. I am a person with a disability myself. I have multiple disabilities, but I use a chair because I was born with cerebral palsy, so I always say that's my main disability. And I will open it up for questions from there.
Thank you so much, Wendy. And before we jump into questions in just a little bit, but yeah, thank you so much for introducing us to Impact. And again, I didn't realize how many counties you all serve and the reach that you do. And hearing that, again, just is very, very impressive. And also hearing about your leadership activities, as well as the opportunities and the ways that Impact is helping the self-advocates in your community. So thank you. And moving on to our next spotlight of sales, I want to highlight PACE and turn over to Mel and introduce PACE and all the wonderful work that you all do.
Hello, my name is Mel. I work for PACE. It is, as you know, the acronym for PACE is Person Assuming Control of Their Environment. So I want to say thank you for having me today. It's a really a pleasure to be here and stuff. But I also want to echo that, as everyone has said, we serve each cell is completely different. We have our core services. But for today, I want to highlight something that I think is very unique with PACE. So PACE is a very small still. We are in Urbana and stuff, and we serve counties of Champaign, Douglas, Edgar, Piatt, and Vermilion. We only have 15 staff, so we're very small. But I want to let you guys know about a program that I think is pretty unique with PACE. I am the personal support worker coordinator here at PACE. So it is personal support worker is for consumers with intellectual disability and developmental disability. It's focused for that program. It is a referral program at PACE for the Champaign County residents. So it is a program pretty similar with the personal assistant, but a little bit different still. So it is, I work with consumers with intellectual disability based upon when they're looking for someone to hire a PSW, which is a personal support worker. I work with consumers, getting their preferences and try to find people that want to work as a PSW. Based upon their preferences, I provide referrals to those consumers. So sometimes consumers who have unique preferences comes to the Center for Independent Living at PACE and say, hey, I needed someone to be this kind of preferences. And my job is to connect in the community and recruit potential PSWs. We hold right now, because of COVID, we are holding online orientation for the PSW program, but before we do it in person. So, but for now we're doing it online. So anyone that is interested to being a PSW, they can sign up and call me, and then I could get them to what's the next scheduled orientation and stuff. So, so during that orientation, I talk about how the program works, what the qualification is for being a PSW, and the process of getting referred and getting hired as a PSW. So any question of a potential worker could ask during that orientation, and I work with them through that. I introduce them to the home-based program for PSW. I also introduce them to a lot of the stuff that is required as a PSW. One of the differences, for example, is being a PSW, it's the rate of pay is negotiable. It's not, as we all know, in the personal assistant, if you are working through DRS, it's a set pay. But in the PSW program, the rate of pay is one of the difference is negotiable. Also, a PSW worker is supposed to work with a consumer to gain independence. So that means any task that they're asked to do, they're building on independence and stuff. So they're teaching independence to be as independent as possible or to maintain independence in the community. So that's one of the things that we work on during that program. So my job is to maintain a registry at PACE and recruit potential PSWs. And in order for a person to be on the registry, of course, they have to attend the orientation, and also they must pass several background checks. So I have to run a healthcare registry check, a national and Illinois sex offender check. And sometimes we do refer consumers out that are younger than 18. So I do a DCFS CANS check. So in order for someone to be entered on the registry, they must pass those background checks and stuff. So, and I as a worker here at PACE will maintain that registry and contact PSW at least every quarter or even as often, whenever someone reaches out at PACE and who has a unique preferences, I contact potential PSWs that matches their preferences, saying, hey, this is an added preferences. Are you willing to be referred out to that consumer? So kind of eliminating some of the questions before sending out someone to a consumer and stuff. So it is a good resource for someone who is looking to hire a personal support worker, because sometimes you just don't know where to find someone, or you don't know anybody in town and stuff. So that's why I get a lot of calls for that. So I'm saying, hey, I heard you have a registry. How can I get on and try to find a PSW? And I work with that consumer along the way of their search. So we are there during the search. Any potential question that arises during the interview process, or even how to maintain their PSW, we are there to support and answer those questions. Many of the consumers that calls me at PACE, would ask, hey, I have this issue. I need you to assist me on how to navigate that, or how to approach my PSW, or any other things that they have been concerned, they're concerned with, and then we kind of navigate through that. So that's another thing. Sometimes a consumer says, hey, I have this issue, but I don't want to address it. Just a one-on-one. Is there any other resource? So we offer a quarterly advisory meeting that we invite all the PSW and all the consumers, and we have a meeting and we kind of discuss certain topics that they wanted to discuss. So that way we can navigate that employee-employer relationship, and then kind of provide some feedback, any insights. And it's the group that kind of run the meeting. They give information to each other, saying that I had that situation happen to me, so this is how I handled it and stuff. So it's pretty much driven by the consumers or the PSW. And that meeting actually turned out really beneficial, because some people that attend the meeting are still looking to be connected with a PSW or a consumer. So they get to meet each other and stuff, and they get to talking and saying, hey, you kind of work with my preferences. Would you like to work for me and stuff? So that's a great opportunity for both PSW and consumers to be connected. Because let's be honest, you cannot match someone with personality. How many times will we refer someone, like there will be a good connection, but somehow the personality didn't match. So that advisory meeting is a great opportunity to kind of talk to each other and kind of socialize and say, hey, you might work for me. Let's try it out. So that's a good opportunity. So another thing that I want to mention is, how do you access our registry here at PACE? Just give me a call. I'll work with you and stuff, and then we'll figure out what your preferences is. If I don't have anyone in particular on the registry that matches and stuff, I will reach out to the community and try to see if anyone will be interested and stuff. So I am here to support and try to help you find someone that matches your wants. So who do we work with at PACE? So a lot of consumers that have the home-based money reaches out to PACE who wants to hire a PSW. I also have some private pay consumers that are waiting to be picked from PUNS. I know everyone, PUNS is the prioritization of urgency of needs. It's a waiting list to be picked so that, when you get the PSW money. So, but many people are already wanting to hire a PSW while they're in the waiting list. So they reach out to me and they wanted to hire now while they're waiting. I also help consumer who needs a respite worker and stuff. There are also some of the consumers that are still waiting to be picked from PUNS, but are eligible for the respite work as a respite worker. They're eligible for a respite worker. So I help those consumers to find someone and stuff. So I know I said that the registry is for Champaign County residents, but don't let that stop you, because I work with Champaign, Douglas, Hyatt, Edgar, and Vermilion. When they hear about the list, they give me a call and say, hey, could you find out from your registry anyone that might be interested in traveling and stuff? So what I do is I pick up the phone and give anyone in the registry a call that matches pretty close to their preferences and kind of present it to them. Hey, they might not be Champaign County residents, but are you willing to travel and stuff? So, and then I connect, my job is to connect that consumer to a potential PSW. So again, with this program, we partner a lot with Respite Coalition, the Regional Planning Commission in Champaign. We partner with them, and your individual service coordinator, you can let them know that we're available. They can reach out to me, and we can kind of see if your preference for a PSW we can find, or even some of your self-direction assistants. Have reached out to me, trying to access the registry to assist consumers who are looking to hire a PSW. If you're looking to get involved, we have an advocacy group called Advocate for Access. We meet first Wednesday of every month and stuff. So right now, again, it's still in Zoom, but hey, if you are interested, please don't hesitate to give me a call here at PACE. We'll get you connected, or any sales in this call, give them a call. We'll get you connected to what your needs are. So other than that, if you have any other questions, I'm here to answer anything that you have.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mel. That's really great to hear about, really get a good understanding of the great PSW program and just how you connect to the needs and just work to meet the needs of the folks in your counties. So we'll now heard really from all the SILs on the call, and now is a chance for those of you who are attending to ask any questions. So I'm going to turn over to Christine, who's been monitoring a chat. If there's any questions or comments that come up, Christine?
This is Christine, and no, there haven't been any comments or contributions or questions, although I have a question. I heard that Mel said they have an advocacy group at their location. I know Wendy shared that they have a self-advocacy group. And so do all of the Centers for Independent Living have advocacy groups? And so that's my first question. And then, do your self-advocacy groups comprise, or do they include people with intellectual and developmental disabilities? Thank you.
This is Eric. I can take that first. I would say, yes, we have some self-advocacy groups, but I think they get started around the issues that are going on. They don't necessarily, they're not always meeting, right? They're meeting when an issue comes up that we may need to address. And yes, they would include anyone with a disability who finds that issue to be important. And again, I think because how we work is so consumer driven, if there are a group of people that come to us and say, we're running into an issue here in the community, we're going to sit down with that group and help to eliminate the issue. One of the good examples of that is our local deaf community here in Rockford reached out to us a few years ago and said, we don't have access to effective communication in the hospitals. All of our hospitals had different policies. So we said, well, do you guys want to work on this issue? And we regularly met with a group of members from the deaf community and advocated with the hospitals. And now in our city, all 3 of our major hospitals have the exact same policy around effective communication. So any group that comes to us with an issue, I'm going to sit down with them and ask how they want to be engaged and work with them to eliminate whatever barrier they're facing.
Audio.
This is Horacio. Actually, as I think I mentioned at the beginning of my presentation, that at Progress Center we have an advocacy department, and beautiful thing of Centers for Independent Living or listed Progress Center, we have a legislative class that we provide twice a year. And actually this summer, we have a summer legislative class. And this class is very helpful for people to learn how to self-advocate and also how to learn how to contact your legislators, to know who are your legislators in your community where you live, and also you learn how to write letters to your legislators. I really believe that this legislative class is very important for each consumer. And I want to say, just to conclude, that when a consumer, the message that we want to send to consumers, that Centers for Independent Living are not just to come and get a fish. What we want is to teach consumers how to fish so that they can eat fish every day and not just come in what we can give and they live. We want them to fully learn how to be self-advocates and how to live independently. Thank you, Jay.
Thank you, Horatio. And yeah, just I think as all of you have shared throughout your presentations today, in getting to know yourselves and your communities, how you create opportunities for self-advocates from the IDD as well as all disability communities to come and create welcoming spaces so that people with disabilities can come to your centers and feel welcome and feel heard and feel seen. Again, I think is really important and is something that is something to note. And just the way that you are customizing and adapting to your local communities, to the individuals that call or walk in your centers. Again, it's important to highlight because for many of us in the disability community, and myself included, have had experiences where I've had to try to adjust and to come to a center that says, no, we'll adjust to you to the best that we can. I think is a very refreshing and gratifying and welcoming, and a welcoming feeling. As we're drawing down to the last few minutes, again, I want to thank everybody. I want to slightly change gears. One of the things that we at the Alliance do is through leadership development and helping self-advocates build their voice to speak up and speak out. And part of that is to help identify and build skills to join boards and councils and practice leadership. And one of the things that are connected, leadership opportunities that is connected with Centers for Independent Living is the statewide Independent Living Council Board, which for transparency's sake, I will want to say proudly have been a member for a few years. And I want to take a few minutes to kind of introduce what the Silk Board is, and also make an invitation to those of you that are listening live, and then for those of you that are watching this as recorded, this invitation is also open to you, that if this sounds interesting, to please reach out, and we want and learn more about how you can get involved with the Silk Board. So to start, I'm going to ask Shelley to kind of give an overview of what the Silk Board is, and then I can fill in any perspectives of my personal experience and leadership opportunities. So Shelley?
All right, well, the first thing I want to do is I want to read Silk's mission statement, kind of sums it up. Silk's mission is to provide leadership, research, planning, and education required to support independent living services in Illinois. We achieve our mission by identifying and reaching out to persons currently unserved and underserved by Centers for Independent Living, increasing awareness of independent living services and the independent living philosophy, helping existing CILs to better serve persons with disability, and promoting the development of new CILs. So we are like a monitoring, and we help to write the state plan for independent living, like I said, in conjunction with the 22 centers for CILs here in Illinois and other organizations. And then what the board does is they oversee that plan. They get our financial reports. They look at how we're progressing on fulfilling the activities of the state plan for independent living, which we call the SPIL, State Plan for Independent Living. So that's what it is. And we can't exist if we don't have a board that's looking over everything that we're doing. And if we didn't have a board, we wouldn't get funding, Part B funding from the Administration for Community Living to help foster and bring about these services to consumers of all of the centers. It gets a little busy when it comes to writing a new state plan for independent living. We do this every 3 years. And actually in March, we will start working on the plan that will start in 2024. It's a long process. And that's when you as members of the board will be giving input on what you think the plan should be. We also spend a lot of time reaching out to community through surveys, through town hall meetings and things like that, and take all of the things into consideration when writing the plan. We consist of 23 members. 18 of the members are voting members, and the majority of them must be people with disabilities. You know, nothing about us without us. We know what it's like to have a disability, and we're the ones that need to be making the decisions. We have the other 5 members are representatives of state agencies that just keep up on what we're doing, and we have them share what they are doing at their agency at our meeting, but they do not have voting power. We like to keep a pool of candidates available because you never know when somebody has to step off the council for some reason. Right now, I have about 5 people in the pipeline that could be potential board members. Two of them coming up will be appointed pretty shortly to fill a couple of vacancies, but we like to keep a pool of candidates. So please understand that if you are interested and you apply, I'll be going through the interview process, and we'll turn over my findings and your resume over to the outreach committee to look it over. But then it may be a while before you would actually come onto the board, but we like to keep that pool of candidates open.
Great, thank you, Shelley. Yeah, so as Shelley said, you know, and sharing our mission, the Silk Board, it is a mandatory board from our federal funders and the center funders, and our primary role is, yes, we work in partnership, and I'm very proud to say that here in Illinois, our Silk works very closely with all 22 center staff and directors to develop our statewide plan. And as the plan and as time moves on, we work together to make sure that the goals and objectives of the plan are met, and as well as providing resources and services and any kind of technical assistance to our centers that the Silk can do. And the Silk membership is made up of people from all over the state. We represent all 22 centers and our state. So we want to have people from all parts of the state. So, which is why I wanted to take this opportunity to say if you are interested in leadership and joining a board and developing a plan, and those types of ideas are interesting for you, to reach out to Shelley or myself, and we can follow up with more information and the process and what all it entails. And we want people from diverse disability communities, different regions, different interests, expertise, and knowledge, as well as all different communities of cultural and diverse communities as well. So with that, any last questions, Christine, or thoughts?
I don't see any. This is Christine, and I thought I knew a lot about Centers for Independent Living and Silk. And indeed I do, but I have learned new information today. And so I thank each of our presenters for helping me learn new things that I can share with people that I support.
Here. And as we round out our closing, I'm just going to share last couple of slides. Again, on behalf of the Alliance, I want to thank Amber from Access Living, Horatio from Progress Center, Eric from RAMP, Wendy from Impact, Mel from PACE, and John from INSO, and Shelley from Silk for taking the time and spending the time today to really introduce us to your SILs and for us to get to know your wonderful programs a little bit more, and the opportunities that you have for folks with all disabilities, as well as inclusive of our IDD community.
I do want to say before we close,
yes.
if you're not sure what your local Center for Independent Living is, if you will go on the INSIL website or the Silk website, you will be able to look up by county. You just put in your county and you can find what Center for Independent Living serves your area.
Thank you, Shelley. Yeah, I was just thinking about doing that and I forgot. But yes, go to the Silk website or INSIL website and just click on the find your SIL link.
And also, if they don't have internet services, they can call the INSIL office, and that number is 217-525-1308, and we will look that up and let you know what center serves your area.
Thank you
John,
so
could
much.
you repeat that phone number, please?
That phone number again is 217-525-1308.
Thank you, John. And then as you can see on the screen, if you are wanting to learn about the centers and INSIL or Silk, you can check out their websites that are on the screen, and we'll make sure that we post this information and make it available afterwards as well. And then again, just on behalf of the Alliance, Christine and myself, thank you all for joining us today. As I said, the Illinois Self-Advocacy Alliance is a proud initiative of the Illinois Council for Developmental Disabilities, and we thank them for their support. If you are wanting to learn more about the Alliance, you can check us out at our website, selfadvocacyalliance.org, as well as follow us and connect with us on our Facebook page by searching for Illinois Self-Advocacy Alliance, or our tag, Illinois Self-Advocacy Alliance on Facebook. So again, thank you all so very much. And if I can, a little bit of improv with your names, I think it's important for us as we all work to, move to make an impact, to move forward and increase with our pace, to make progress in our lives, to really, really make connections to access our lives. Again, thank you all for your work, and have a good night or good day.
Thank you.